Roy Pulver, a retired Delta Force soldier, is currently experiencing the 139th version of today. The time loop resets each time the soldier dies. He has been through this so many times that he knows it by heart. Each morning, at 7 a.m., the man who breaks into his flat tries to murder him, and then the woman with whom he has slept. Then, a helicopter with a gunman appears and fires until his apartment explodes. Roy jumps out of the window and lands on a truck full of sand. He had failed 22 times to do this before. He then hijacks another car to drive away from two assassins who are in a minivan. Roy doesn't know the names of these women, so he refers to them by their nicknames Pam and Esmeralda. Roy can escape these women as long as they don't distract him or he remembers not to get hit by the bus. The day restarts because he did not do it this time. The only thing that changes is the little details. It all depends on Roy's decisions or his forgetfulness. Smiley likes to impale him with lances and tie him to his trunk. Guan Yin is a man who usually uses a sword to murder him. Kaboom is a small, short person who has a plan to blow him up. He kills some, but the rest find and kill him. Roy is convinced that his ex-wife is the only one who can explain the situation. However, when he dials her office, he is answered by her boss, Colonel Clive Ventor. He is told she died as a result of an accident. However, Roy is still convinced he killed her. Unfortunately, Roy never lives long enough to discover why. When Roy manages to get away from the bus, Pam and the other passengers, he makes it to Jake's diner. He must rush to grab a bar seat or Dai Feng will take the spot. Jake is in love with this world-class swordmaster. Dave is talking about conspiracy theories and internal security while Roy gets drunk. The assassins are always waiting for him at 12:47 and killing him in the diner. Roy never gets past this moment. He will be killed sooner if he doesn't come to the restaurant. Roy recalls his day just before the loop began as he's shot by each of the killers. After she sends him a text message inviting him to visit her at Dino Laboratories because they are hiring, he visits his ex-wife Gemma. She is not interested in Roy's resume or reconnecting after not having seen each other for a long time. Instead, she begins to take his measurements and pull a hair sample from him, which causes blood. Roy is watching Vector's bodyguard Brett through the surveillance cameras as Gemma tells him about the strange machine that she has been working on. She claims it can destroy planets and unmake time. Roy brings up their son, who doesn't know that he is the father. He thinks Roy is a friend. Roy begs Gemma to listen to him. He accepts that he lost Gemma when he decided to choose work over his relationship with her, but he wants to have a role in the life of their son. Brett interrupts their conversation, reminding Gemma that this area is restricted. Gemma claims she's made a deal with Vendor. Brett tells Roy that they don't hire, so Gemma must have lied. She sends Roy away without letting him say anything more. Gemma informs Roy that she sent him an important birthday gift that must be opened and that Osiris should always remain in his mind. The Vendor is not happy that Roy knows about his experiment, and so Brett has been ordered to hire random assassins instead of soldiers to ensure no one can trace the assassins. He then asks Gemma for a visit to his office, where he reprimands her for breaking security protocol by inviting Roy to stay. Roy picks Alice up at a local bar when nightfall falls. Alice is a dental hygiene worker. The bartender says that Alice is another woman to add to Roy's long list of one-night conquests. He will not be satisfied with this because Roy never forgets his ex. Gemma calls him while Alice is still in the bathroom. She tells him that she's about to make a drastic decision and needs his assistance. Ventnor cut off the line before Gemma could say anything more. Roy knew Gemma was upset but chose to return to Alice's place rather than try to contact her. Gemma inserts Roy's blood and hair into a tube she uses to work on the machine. While Roy and Alice are having fun, Gemma is putting Roy's hair in. Ventor, seeing this footage on the surveillance cameras, decides that she is rogue. He sends Brett to find her. Roy had one last day of normality before the loop began. Now that Roy has revisited the memory of the conversation he had with Gemma, it occurs to him that he never opened the gift she sent. He finally does so and discovers that the book was titled Iset and Osiris, with a message from Gemma written on the back that reads, "Time waits no man." The book is distracting him from the fact that he should be taking steps to escape the assassins. After dying twice more, he finally escapes with the book after discovering a button that was hidden in his car, which he had never seen before. The car speeds up after Roy presses the button, and he misses the exit to Jake's diner. He ends up in the underground Atlanta Mall where he reads the book that Gemma gave him. The story of Iset and Osiris is not clear to him, and he stops reading the book when his son Joe buys something from a kid older than himself. He realizes that Joe is his only family now that Gemma has died, so he goes to an arcade that hosts esports competitions. Roy doesn't notice that he is causing the screens to glitch every time he approaches them. He just goes up and tells Joe off for skipping school. Joe showed him that they were just cards and not some illegal substance. He asked him about what he purchased, but Roy did not notice. Roy then invites him out to lunch. As soon as they exit the building, Roy notices that it's 12:50, which is the longest time he's ever been alive since the loops began. He realizes that they had put him on a tracking device, and a metal wall in the dining room and underground shopping center kept him safe. Assailants arrive at that exact moment and fire Roy while he is holding Joe, putting himself in between them and his son. He dies as he declares to him he's his father. The day starts again, and he questions the burglar who broke into his apartment where the tracker is. He does not get a response. Roy goes to the restroom at the diner, and he inspects his body closely, even putting his finger up his backside. But he does not locate the tracker. Dave is a seasoned expert on this subject, so Roy asks Dave where he'd hide the tracker. Dave says in his teeth. Roy remembers Alice, the dental hygienist, putting him in a chair to sleep while Brett watched them. She had been a part of their plan all along. Roy, after getting more pliers and alcohol from Jake, goes into the bathroom to remove his teeth with Dave. He finds the tracker and is killed by Roy number 2 a few seconds later. Alice tells Roy that Brett has paid her to place the tracker. Roy goes through his usual routine up until Jake's diner. He removes the tracker tooth and takes it into an abandoned building where it will be used as a lure. Pam appears but refuses to reveal who hired her. He kills Pam with the gun that used to be owned by a Gaiman dictator. Roy is aware that Gemma put him into this situation, but he cannot go back far enough to help her. Everything becomes meaningless. Roy's only option is to get revenge. He enjoys his freedom without a tracker and takes out all of the assassins who have been after him. Brett is contacted by Brett using the stolen phone from Kaboom. He promises to find Ventor and him. Brett shoots Roy after he crashes his car on the way to the labs. Then, a series of loops begins where Roy tries different ways to get into Dino. He sends his car with explosives or pretends to be Roy number 2. It takes him several tries to figure out how to sneak in. He can get past the guards once he has managed to bring weapons into the building. However, Guan Yin's sword-fighting skills will be too strong for him to defeat with just a wallet. The vendor will sometimes find him if he doesn't die fast enough. He gives the same long speech on his plan to change history. Roy discovers during one of his speeches that the project's name is Osiris Spindle. He realizes 2 important things. Ventor doesn't know the device is working, and Gemma puts him there on purpose to stop Ventor. Roy, feeling empowered by Gemma's belief in him and a series of new loops that he has devised with his new plan, starts up a whole new set of loops. He asks Dai Feng for lessons in swords after completing the routine of removing the tracking device from the bathroom at the diner. She accepts because she is intrigued by him. After a few loops, he beats her and thanks her for the lessons. He then sneaks back into Dino. He fights Guan Yin this time with a blade instead of a gun, and stops her easily. He stabs Guan Yin with the sword after teasing them by cutting her ponytail. Brett and Ventor are then on their way, but Brett is killed instantly when Roy uses the sword to stab him in the face. Roy and Ventor start a fistfight. When Ventor grabs a weapon, Roy catches it and nips Ventor's arm to the ground. He explains that nobody should pretend to be a god or rewrite the history. The past must remain as is, so we may learn. Ventor is angry with Roy because he thinks that those words are coming from an absentee father and implying Joe could be in danger. He gets in his car after killing Ventor and rushes back to the mall. There, he discovers that it is already too late. His son has died. This has probably happened numerous times throughout all of the loops. As he fights the police for the right to get closer to Joe's corpse, a bright, shining light on the horizon appears. The world is ending, as Gemma warned. Roy believes Gemma has died because he never returned her call when she requested his assistance. Now their son gets involved too. Roy decides that there's no use in trying to do anything if the world will end anyhow. He spends the following loops in apathetic mode and lets the assassins kill him repeatedly. The violence eventually snaps him out of his apathy, and one morning he takes advantage of the extra time that he has. Then he returns to the shopping center to pick up Joe and spend the rest of the day with him, eating lunch and playing video games. He does this until the end takes place and the clock resets. But he's too scared to admit to Joe that he's his dad. Joe tells Roy that he spoke to Gemma early the next morning after Gemma did not come home. Roy is shocked, as he always believed she had been killed in the middle of the night. He now starts to make a plan on how he might be able to save her. He sneaks into the labs and, after resetting time, shoots Ventor while demanding an answer. Brett admits that they were trying to figure out what Brett did with the Osiris spindle, because they thought she had sabotaged the device, and they now can't control the chain reaction she has started. Ventnor discovers that Roy can sneak into the room because of the spindle, meaning Gemma gave him the missing mass. Roy discovers the precise time Gemma died by looking at security cameras. It was 14 minutes after Roy woke up. Roy, who had shot himself in the head to start his day again, decides to attempt to save Gemma despite only having 14 minutes. He kills his first assassin in the same way he always does, but then he jumps directly out of the helicopter window. Roy kicks off the gunman before threatening to use a weapon to order him to get to Dinau in as little time as possible. He sneaks into the building, takes the machine gun of the gunman, and kills all the assassins waiting outside. He takes a Guan Yin sword and a gun from the bodies and shoots each guard as he moves to Gemma's lab, where Brett is attacking her. Roy kills Ventor and him in a matter of seconds before returning to Gemma. She asks how many times he tried to capture her. Gemma, however, sees through his lie when he tells her that it took him only one attempt. He had promised her Joe was safe and assassins would not be after her child. Gemma says that the spindle cannot be stopped, but can only be restarted. The missing mass in the spindle was made to match Roy's specific DNA, which would reset the day for the final time if Roy entered the spindle. But she didn't know for sure, as this was the first time that she had managed to get the machine to work, and she did it all quickly to stop Ventor. He knows that if time is restored and Roy dies, then he'll be lost forever, but thinks he learned enough to help save Gemma as well as Joe. After kissing Gemma, he enters the Osiris spindle and waits to see if the machine will use him to restart the day one last time.